I've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds. Yeah, I know. What?
That's wild.
You hated that game.
I did. I started playing this game and I was not enjoying the first few hours with it. It is a complicated game. It is an action RPG-ish. It's mostly a weapons-based combat game. And you head out into the Forgotten Lands, whatever it's called.
The Wilds.
And
Kirby.
you hunt monsters, kill them, harvest their loots, and you create weapons and armor from what you can harvest from the creatures that you kill. That is the gameplay loop. There is a campaign that's about 15 hours long that I'm halfway through. The point of playing through the campaign is to basically, it gives you context as to like introductions to these monsters in a story-based way. You're trying to find the tribe that apparently live out here. We didn't know that there were human beings or human likes, whatever we are in this world, living out in this part of the world at large. And the fact that a child has rocked up and said they were chased by some massive mythical monster is the reason we're exploring this, because we want to kill the monsters. We want to find that person's home. And we're bouncing between monsters on the way. And it's like basically a gauntlet. It's monster after monster after monster. They're really throwing monsters at you quite quickly. This is a Vexia as well, because there is co-op in the campaign when you're in boss fights.
I've heard this is a better game to play with other people.
It doesn't have world co-op, so it's a bit of a weird, disconnected experience where you connect for a fight, you get 60 seconds to loot the monster at the end, and then you both go back into your own instances and keep playing through the campaign. I am not really incentivized to explore the world yet in the campaign until you get to end game, and that's the goal, is to just push your way through a very generic fantasy story and fight these monsters until you get to the end game where you can grind out monster kills to get the mat drops, to make the better weapons, and to make the game more interesting. There are variants of the monsters as well with different movesets and different kinds of health. So it's that's kind of the end game, is to get to that and try and beat the more challenging versions of the monsters you encounter along the way.
You could say this about a lot of games with end games that people are striving to for the moment they start the game, but the campaign therefore is like a glorified tutorial on how to like learn everything there is. I meant see every monster that you're going to then revisit. In some shape
but they'll
or
be
form.
different when you fight them the next time.
Okay, right.
But the point really is that there does need to be a big onboarding, because all of there's some complexity to the weapons, and there's I think there's like 18 or 20 weapon choices. They all play quite differently, and that's really cool. And you will invest materials in upgrading those down an upgrade tree so that they're more effective in different ways. Maybe it's an elemental kind of augmentation, or you can carry 2 sets of weapons at a time. So you might have one that's better at cracking armor, so then you can find more weak spots.
What did you roll with?
At the moment, I'm sword and board, and I've got the I can't even remember what it's called. I've been trying a bunch of different stuff because I'm again about halfway through the campaign. It's called like I don't know. It's got a gun in
the spear lancer
big
thing?
sword.
It's like
it's not the lance,
okay.
but yeah,
gun sword.
Yeah, gun sword thing.
Oh, the cats are palicos, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
They're not
they
weapons.
Did you? No. But I just noticed in the video. Did you make yours look like Pikachu?
Yeah, mine's Pikachu, and my character I tried to design to look like Link as well.
Good.
Because one of the voice options, because you can kind of like there's a really detailed character customizer, and then there's like the 8 voice choices, and one of them goes, yeah, hey, and like it's like the Hyrule like field Link.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna make Link.
Good.
And so I
Good.
spent way too much time doing that, and then I was like,
Nice.
I just looked up a tutorial on how to make Pikachu.
You
Because
needed a tutorial for a character customizer. That's amazing.
There's just like
What do you
the
mean? You need a
sliders to get it
preset
together.
sliders.
Oh,
Good.
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm like, it's yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow.
Yellow
but
rats.
the red markings on the cheeks are actually they start up. Oh, you got to push them up to the ears as
Yeah,
well,
right.
and
Okay.
change the
Wow.
color.
It's
So
more
there's
like
science
me
behind it.
customization to make the whole.
Yeah. It's like
Sorry, yeah. You're saying the weapons. You're running with those.
yeah. So the
upgrading those.
the weapons they all play differently, but also like some of them are really quick and agile and like slashing, and some of them are like about crushing and breaking. you build up power to use like specials with them. I really like the sword and board because it feels like I'm always building up my. Thank you, Gunlance. Oh, it's not the Gunlance though. That's not what I'm using. Anyway, you create weak spots on the enemies, and then you can do massive damage on that. So there's an interesting dance to the fights. They move through different arenas, so you're constantly chasing them around the world as well. They can then dynamically encounter other monsters that are in the open world and start doing damage to each other. This is all stuff that people who have played Monster Hunter World would be reasonably familiar with.
I'd say any Monster Hunter game. But it's cool experiencing that. I'm checked for the first time where it's like, oh, this fight is going on for 10 minutes and we're moving.
But I played a bunch of Monster Hunter World as well.
Oh, that's right, you did too. Yeah.
But that was not really an open world. This still doesn't really strike me as an open world just because of how directed the whole story is. No, it's not. It is open spaces, but because you are so like it fades to black and puts you on the back of your mount and you're riding and there's story getting delivered while you're riding to the next fight, and then you get the kill and you got 60 seconds to do the loot, and then it fades back and takes you to town. You don't have the moments of traveling between places yet.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of like I would say this is a bad open world RPG story, but again, it's not the point of the game. The point of the game is to get to that end game and really grind out to get the coolest gear. And I didn't think because I came into the office like I've played like 3 hours and I'm like so not into it. And then I played 4 and 5 hours and I was like, I kind of see it. And now I'm like 7 or 8 hours in. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I want all the cool shit.
Same thing happened to my husband. Shout out to Zach in the chat.
Shout outs to Zach!
Yeah,
Shout out to Zach in the chat!
Let's get some Zach in chat!
He had the similar experience where he played for 3 hours. It might be the 3 hour mark.
Yes, 3 hour mark.
And he was just like, oh, I've made a mistake with this game. And then looked it up properly and researched weapons and found the correct weapon for himself, and now I can't get him off it.
Amazing.
Yeah, there really is there's a really steep learning curve. The UI sucks. All of the UI sucks. And all of the way that presents information to you is just like almost like impossible to pass. But you go and you look up tutorials on YouTube. The people have done the hard yards to actually work out what it's trying to ask you to do. And or you play with people and kind of make the experience a little less challenging for yourself by co-oping some bosses, and suddenly you give yourself the freedom to just feel it and learn it. And the combat is a lot of fun, and being in these fights is a lot of fun. Like the thrill of the chase is totally a part of it. Like using environmental objects to damage the bosses. It's all really just, this is the core of the game and it works. And so everything else you kind of forgive. Every monster fight is different and feels cool in its own way.
It's almost like for the things that you forgive because you don't like, some people out there will probably, knowing how big the fan base for this game series is, it's like some people will love that and be like, well, that's the way it should be done because it's a series that's gone for so long that there is things that people would say, if you change that in this series, I wouldn't. Like, if you modernized elements of it, I think there's a legacy to a lot of the systems. UI, some of the like clunky elements of it that you might think gets finessed in other action games. And here, it's like people are drawn to that, and they like that still persists. I think.
Look, potentially, it may also be just like a little bit of Stockholm syndrome stuff. It's
they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about.
I feel the same about like Pokemon, right? It's like, yes, Pokemon could be way better than it is now if Game Freak were a little bit more. Just, I don't know, ambitious, as opposed to playing it reasonably safe most of the time. This is, I guess, a reasonably safe Monster Hunter game, and people don't care about the story, so it's just a story, and they don't care that the UI is dated, so why update the UI? But I would argue you could make a way better game and a way more approachable game by updating those things, or you could have a 10 out of 10 game of the year here for someone who doesn't love Monster Hunter. Well, I'm finding that I'm really enjoying the monster hunting, but I think as a video game, it's like just good.
Do you lose out on do you lose out on people playing this by trying to update something because there are more people who play this series coming to it than new people being brought to it? Therefore, like you've got to keep these familiar crappy UIs and systems and menus because people have been trained on it.
Absolutely not.
You don't, but I'm just saying. Like I think there's a lot of people out there.
We will play every Pokemon game.
Oh yeah,
And we will lap that
Yeah.
shit up because we're just pathetic suckers for it.
Who are you calling pathetic?
You. but we could be much better served, and we would recognize it if we were. And I think Monster Hunter players would recognize when they were getting served a better experience.
Sure.
If it didn't corrupt the core gameplay. And again, the core gameplay I think is fantastic. So you get that, but just dress it nicer.
I think it always comes down to the question of, is the game fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no for 3 hours, and then yes.
Yes, after 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I've heard that from so many people that Monster Hunter is a punish to play and really hard to get into until it isn't.
I think
most people
so. What
I've
you're saying
talked
is
to-
there is a tipping point more than other games where it's like, there's a distinguishable point of like you really got to
Of
get
like, oh, now I like it.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even a like in a Soulsy kind of way.
Yeah.
I understand how to play now, and it's no longer hard. Or sorry, obviously Soul stays hard, but it's like it's just not fluid and it's not fun until you work out the combat, as opposed to it being like so difficult that you have a difficulty spike that you need to, or a difficulty hurdle that you need to jump over. It's not particularly what's the word where it's obvious to you? It's
Intuitive?
Yes, it's not intuitive. Thank you.
It's interesting, particularly with to that point, particularly with the combat styles. When you said at the start, you go through the weapons and you choose them, and again, like anyone starting it early on, I can't remember a game. I'm sure there exists one, but I can't remember a game where at the start they go here, pick one of these guns, pick one of these weapons from a list of what feels like 11 or maybe a little less than that, and you just are at a camp going, give me this one, I'll try that, and every attack pattern and movement style is so distinctly different that you're like, we get to the bottom of the list, you're like, I gotta go back to the first one again, and I can't remember. My point being is that leads to so much different telegraphing and fighting styles that I don't know if there's a way to make that feel more graceful when you're having an all-out brawl of a monster. Like, it does look like people are just kind of cartwheeling and flipping and rolling, and you're like, what is happening here? That's always been my thought with Monster Hunter, but that's not to say it's not fun, and it's not still handled well. It just looks a bit insane in terms of like how much it's trying to fit into its combat style, which is ambitious, and it's something that's been accumulating over the series. They've been like adding weapons and making different fight styles. So it's just, I think they're in a point now where they just have so many systems and so many things happening in the game that you just have to keep adding to it, and you can't take anything out. So yeah, it's a complicated game. But that's just because it has history.
Yeah, sure. But I think I don't know if you're like just trying to excuse some stuff that is like really
Trying to
fixable.
understand why people are
Really
like
fixable?
forgiving of it and like, you're right, yeah, could it be fixed?
I think it's all just presentation of information. Which
Yeah,
is
we're talking about two
all
different-
video games, right? Yes, there should be this many weapons. Yes, they all should all play differently. All the gameplay stuff is fantastic. It's just, why does it take people 3 hours to? Why is it so unintuitive?
Yeah.
That's game design. So work on it, Capcom. But otherwise, you got a brilliant game.
Cool.
Cool.
And you're going to finish the campaign, run around.
I should hopefully finish the campaign in another couple of sittings, and then I'm on the grind.